Hello everybody, it's Claire here from My Creative Spirit with something a little different today. When I'm not creating paper-based projects, I really like to use my pens and paints to create cards. And recently I've got quite addicted to the Altenew stamps and dies and products. And in particular, I love the Botanical Garden stamp set. A great set to be able to colour with your pencils, your pens and watercolours. Now, I'm no colourist at all, but I thought I'd show you how I created the floral bouquets on these 3 cards and then show you how I put the cards together using various other Altenew products. So the first thing I did was to use my mini Tim Holtz platform, let's just bring it in, to stamp out my images. I've used archival ink. So when it came out, even though I've got the larger one and the Misty, I did buy that, and Kathy will tell you I was really excited and it's brilliant. And then I'm going to be using the Altenew new watercolour palette set. Absolutely beautiful set of paints, and as I'm sure you know, they all coordinate with the Altenew inks. Really deep pans and really saturated with colour. So I've taken out some pinks and some greens, and I'm going to be using the water brush that comes in the set as well. So I've got my palette, my paper towel, I've got 2 pots of water, clean. I'm clean at the moment, 1 dirty, 1 clean. And I've taken the pans that I want to use out and put them in that little lid just to keep them on the work surface. And the colours are Cotton Candy, Coral Berry and Rubellite in the pink. Let's pop them over there. And Bamboo, Forest Green and Evergreen. And then I've created my own palette just out of a little bit of card in a plastic bag, and it works really, really well. So the first thing we're going to do is just put some water down onto my palette and pick up some of the very pale pink. So I'm just going to mix it, maybe if I put those over there, I'm just going to mix it with a little bit of water. So this one is the Cotton Candy. And just very lightly, I'm going to colour the pink flowers first. Just going onto dry paper, just put down a hint of colour with the water brush. I like that you can get a really sketchy look with these watercolour paints. And as I say, I'm no colourist, so I'm not concentrating on where the light's coming from at all. But what I am doing is just leaving a little bit of white at the edge of the flowers, just to give them a sort of sketchy look. So again, I'm just picking up that pink and just working it quite randomly all over the flower. And then I'm going to go back and add some detail. So I'm just going to pick up, I know it's a water brush, but I'm just putting some more water on the palette just to pick the colour out. And I want that to be a bit lighter, so I'm just going to add more water. And then I'm just sort of going to come in and sketch along the lower edge of the petals. But again, not in any particular way, just to put a darker shading, but I'm sort of not going right to the edge of the petals. And if you're new to watercolouring, it is so easy to do. You can spend as little or as much time as you like colouring your flowers for as detailed a look as you want, really. So mine are really sketchy flowers, and I really like that look. And then I'm going to come in and pick up the darkest of the colours. That's the Rubellite. I love this pink, and just pop it on my mat just with a little bit of water, again not using too much colour, and I'm just going to come in and put a dark hint of colour at the base of the leaves. So I really am working quite randomly. And the nice thing with watercolours is every flower, every petal is different. You never create the same thing. So just like nature really, flowers are all very different. Then I'm just going to take a little bit of the colour darker and just add a hint right at the base of the petals, just to give a hint of a shadow really, which I'm going to work out in a minute. Let's just mix that with the lighter colour. I do get in a right mess. But then that's the nice thing about being creative, isn't it? Who doesn't get in a mess? And then I'm just going to put some darker colour right in the middle of my flower. And then let's just add a little bit more colour to this one. I think that is it. So I'm going to clean my brush, clean off the pink on here, and then come back in with, I'm just going to add the middle pink back onto my palette. Maybe I should have left it. And then pick up some of the bamboo green and create just a puddle with that. This is my favourite green. I absolutely love it. And then I'm just going to wipe my brush off a little bit and just put some green down onto the leaves. Again, I'm not being very careful. So that was dry onto the paper, and then I'm just going to cover the stalk because they look really nice when you cut them out. And then I'm going to pick up some of the forest green, a little bit more water on the palette. The paints are highly pigmented, so you do get a really lovely colour. And then I'm just going to come back in and just add just a hint of colour to the base of the leaves, but again, quite randomly. And then the poppy seeds. I love poppy seeds. I think they're my favourite. I seem to buy any stamp that's got poppy seeds on. But I do really love to colour them. So I'm just going to put, again, I'm going on dry paper, just a very light coverage down. And then I'm going to go back in with the forest green and start to build them up. So I'm just working my brush sort of the way the seed head grows, just to give it that rounded look. A little bit darker on the pod at the bottom, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of the pink, and I'm going to mix it with a little bit of green, just to sort of get a muddy colour, just to put a hint of pink onto the pods. It looks really lovely when they're dry. And then just a hint of pink at the top. And again, the nice thing about these is they all come out differently. So that's how I did the seed heads. And they look really pretty, don't they, in that bright green. And then the little flowers, these are really fun. I didn't have the die to start with. I just bought the stamp set and spent quite a lot of time cutting out all of these little wispy sprays. And then, because I really like the stamp set, I thought it's one that I would use a lot, and I have. I decided I'd buy the die, so that was a considered purchase over at least a week. So I'm just tracing, it just gives a hint of colour when these are cut out, just tracing the stalks. But again, not with any particular skill involved, just taking the brush and following the line, and then just adding colour to the leaves. Just a hint, they are so small, it's really difficult to do any shading, so I'm just doing a few dots here and there. Let's put a darker line on there, and then I'm just going to do this one, and then I'll go back and do the flowers. And then the last one, the last spray that I really liked was this one. And here they all are, all cut out. And here's my box of all sorts of flowers that I've painted and cut out, and they're just sort of ready to go on whatever card, whatever occasion I need, they're there. Something I like to do with the pods before I put them on anything is just curl them, just to give them some dimension, so they're not flat. And also with the flowers, I just like to, because they're painted on watercolour paper, the paper is quite thick, and so I just like to curl them backwards so that when you stick them on your card, they don't stick forwards, they stay flat. So that's sort of worth doing before you go to put them on your projects. And then I'll take you through the 3 cards and show you how I put them all together. So for the first card, I've taken just a standard 5x7 card base with matching envelopes, just bought from Hobbycraft, and then I've cut another card to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I like to use the same card for the base and whatever I'm putting on top of it, so that the colour's the same. And I've taken a serrated circle die and just cut a circle out of that single piece of card. And then, with the section that's come out, that I've cut out, I'm going to use the Classy Stripe stencil. This is the Altenew Classy Stripe stencil, just to add some detail to that circle. Tape it onto the mat, just to hold it in place. And then I'm going to use limestone ink, which is the Altenew Crisp ink. It gives a lovely background just a hint of a shade. So I'm just lightly pressing through the stencil. It really doesn't look as though there's any ink there, but there is. It doesn't move. So it's just to give a hint of a colour. In the original card, I did this but with embossing ink and then embossed clear embossing powder onto it. But I wasn't overly keen on it. It was too shiny. So I decided to use this ink, the limestone. Yeah, limestone ink. So there you can see just a hint of colour. So let's bring the piece in that I've cut the circle out from. I'm going to centre it over the card and just take a pencil and just put a couple of pencil lines, well, one in each quarter, just as a guide so that I know where to stick my circle. It's just going to sit in those pencil lines, and then I know that, oh, you can't see, sorry, let's just move up. I've been fiddling with the camera this afternoon, trying to get it to do different things, and now it won't stretch out as far as it did, so I'm having to work further up the desk, so bear with if I creep off. So now I'm just going to use a little glue to stick this in place. So I'm using Cosmic Shimmer glue. I didn't want as much as that. Just a little hint. It's a great glue for cards because it dries. It doesn't seem to wet the card or the paper. So that's in place, and then I'm just going to take my rubber and just remove the pencil mark. And then on the back of this panel I've put double-sided tape all the way around, cut it slightly so that it goes around the curve of the circle there. So I'm just going to take off the release papers. So a really nice quick card to put together once you've done your colouring. And then I'm just going to centre that over the circle. Like that. So that's our base to work off. So can you see it gives just a hint of a stripe. And then we've got the flowers. So there are only 4 flower sprays on this card. We've got the one with the buds and the flower. We've got 2 pods and then 1 flower at the bottom. So really not a lot of colouring at all. And what I've done is on the back of them I've already popped some foam tape. I haven't coloured around the edges because the card's white, but I am just going to shape the leaves and the petal. So this one sort of sits straight up here and that end just gets tucked behind where the circle disappears. Press it down and you can see those little buds are curling backwards. And then we've got another bud that comes in, or a pod that comes in just here. Now on the end of it I'm just going to put some liquid Cosmic Shimmer. This is such a good product. My lovely friend Kathy introduced me to it last week and I've been using it ever since. Just to put a tiny little bit of detail, a tiny little bit of glue onto something. It's just perfect. So popping that one there. And the next pod, slightly off to the left. And I'm trying to keep them so that all the stalks are coming down in a straight line. So that one's going to sit there, and then this flower's going to come across and sit there like that. It's got no sticky on it. Let's pop a bit of tape on. Get rid of the backing. Just curve it slightly, and then I also like to just lift the leaf up and then curl it between my fingers. It just gives a bit of dimension. And then I'm just going to twist it round so that it sits over there like that, and add a little bit of glue under that stalk and stick it down. So 4 little elements, and ta-da, you've got a card. And then I took some pink twine. This was from IKEA actually, in their Christmas bundle, and just tied a little bow. And it's quite nice. So one little bow, and I'm just going to use a dot of Cosmic Shimmer just to stick it on. It's lovely, it dries clear. Just cut it a bit shorter there. It just adds that finishing touch to the stalk, and then we've just got to add the sentiment. So I used the Just For You sentiment from the Painted Greetings stamp set. I love this. I love the scripty writing, and there were lots and lots of sentiments in here, so I thought it was a really good one to have. And I like to fussy cut out my sentiments, so I thought I'd share with you how I do it. There's loads of discussion out there on YouTube about whether you move the paper or whether you move your scissors. And I have to say, I think I do both. But I'm just sort of following the line. And I think I move both when I want to go round a corner and not get a square edge. And then I like to sort of do a few waves across the top, up and around. It's coming up over the T. Oh, I love these little snips, the Tim Holtz snips. With their serrated edge, they grip the paper as you're moving and cutting through it, so it doesn't slip, which is great if you're wanting to cut something detailed out. And then on the back of that, we've just got a little bit of foam tape, just across the middle. And it's just going to sit across there. To finish off the card, finishing touches, I forgot. Nouveau drops. These ones are White Blizzard, and they just give a hint of a sparkle. So I'm just going to actually I'm just going to start them off on my work surface, and then just hold the bottle upright and just put a few little dots on the card. But also on the pods, where there's a bobble on the pods, I'm just putting a tiny dot, and that gives them just a little bit of sparkle. And maybe just one down there. It's really hard not to go completely over the top. Oh, look, I'm creeping off again, sorry. And then in the centre of the rose, I've got the black Nouveau dots or Nouveau drops. And I'm just going to put just a couple of little dots in the middle of the rose, like that. And that is it. That is card number 1 finished. So onto the second card, and for this one I've used the Watercolour Stripes stencil, again from Altenew. I loved the little detail in this and the jaggedy edges, so I thought it would also be a useful stencil to have. And I've taken just a 4 3/4 by 5 3/4 panel to fit on my 7 by 5 card, and drawn a pencil line 4 inches up the card. And I'm just going to position the stencil so that the top edge of the inner lines are sitting on my pencil line, and then I'm going to just stick that into place with my tape. Actually, let's put one across the bottom. And then I'm going to take the same ink, the limestone ink from Altenew, and just add the stripes to the lower portion of the card. Just being very careful not to go over that top edge. That's it, and pull it out. And then bring the card back in. And then for this one I had or found some really fine washi tape in Hobbycraft, so I'm just going to put it over that pencil line, and then I'm just going to fold it to the back of the card, just to give some detail across the middle. And then the floral spray on this card sits in the centre. So again, how many pieces have we got? 1, 2, 5. 5 pieces. So I'm starting off with a large floral spray. I've put a little bit of foam tape on the back of the large flower, and then I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the stalk, not the leaves, because we may want to tuck something underneath them. And that one's going to sort of sit as the focal point in the centre towards the top of the card. And then a little bit more glue. Only need a little bit, maybe a bit more. Let's hold it, stay down. And then we've got a nice pod that comes out this side. So again, I've shaped it just slightly, and I'm trying to bring all the stalks into a line so they come down the centre. And then the larger flower sits this side. So again, I've shaped that one, and it's just going to sit up there. Let's just stick these ends down. I don't want to stick, maybe I'll have to use the bottle. Stick down. I don't want to put too much glue on because I like the light and airy feel where the elements are lifted up off the card. And then we have got the little flower spray. It's just going to sit over there like that. Maybe I'm going to use the proper bottle. So again, it's just going to sit at an angle. And then lastly, there's one more pod to come on down here. So fiddle around with them. So that's the spray. So I've stuck the panel onto the card just using some Cosmic Shimmer glue, a wet glue, and added just a few drops of the Nuvo drops onto the card and onto the little bud pods, and in the centre of the little daisy. And then I'm just going to add a few little black drops into the centre of the rose. One more. And that's it. That is card number 2, all finished. And onto the last card, I used the Painted Greetings stamp set for the XOXO, or OXOX, and the pinstripe stamp. It's looking a bit black. I've had a battle with it. I'm not sure it was me, the stamping platform, or the stamp, but I ended up having to draw a few of the lines in, and now it's got to be cleaned. So I made a panel by cutting some card 2 inches and 2.5 inches. So the 2-inch section was the stripes, and then I've attached it together on some fun foam and put a really lovely strip of narrow gold washi tape down the centre, and that's ready to go onto the card. Now with this card I did a bit of hand drawing on it, so I sort of positioned the piece where I wanted it to go, and then took my micron pen, this is a 0.05, and just drew around the edge. And I did this before I stuck the stamp in place, the panel in place, just in case it went wrong. I know the panel's not particularly straight where I've added the washi tape, and then I'm just going to add the corners in badly, and then where I just drew some lines at the side, so where it bumps at the bottom, just as a little bit of interest, and then stuck the panel in place. And then onto the flowers. So again, there's not that many of them, but we're going to start with a pod at the top. So again, I've put some double-sided foam tape on the back. 2mm tape I like to use, it gives a nice raised look to the flower. And that one's going to sort of sit over the gold tape towards the top of the card. And then I've got another pod to go on the right hand side. Maybe a bit like that. And then the lovely one with the little buds is going to go to the left. So I'm just going to curl those backwards and curl the leaves. So again, trying to keep all the stems in a straight line so they come down the gold. A little bit of glue under there. Let's hold it down for a minute. Make it stick. And then one last pod that's going to come this way under that leaf. A little bit of glue on the back. Just twist the stem in, press it down. And lastly, the really lovely rose that's just going to sit on there like that. and a little bit of glue on that one. So I'm going to go over one leaf and under the other, and again just keeping the stems coming right down to the centre of the card. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off those ends. Flick the bits off, and then just hold them down just to re-stick them, fingers crossed. And then I've got a nice little bow to go on the stems, which I'm going to add with a little bit of Cosmic Shimmer. Put it at an angle, and then the little tag just to stick on there like that, and I think we'll put that on some foam tape. And that's it, card number 3 is finished. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I've inspired you to get out your watercolours and just have fun. Doing a bit of colouring, we all love to do it, and creating something that makes you happy. Thanks for watching, and if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be kept up to date with new videos as they come out.